Good morning, Year 3. Today we're going to go back reading The Borrowers. Now, so far we've learned about a family that live onto the floor in the big house, Pod and Homily and little Arrietty. And Pod has been seen by a little boy, well, not so little boy to Pod, who worries them very much. They've decided that it's time to tell Arrietty about upstairs and about what happened to her cousin, Eglantine. Chapter 6. Your mother and I got you up, said Pod, to tell you about upstairs. Arrietty, holding the great cup in both hands, looked at him over the edge of it. Pod coughed. You said a while back that the sky was dark brown with cracks in it. Well, it isn't. He looked at her almost accusingly. It's blue. I know, said Arrietty. You know, exclaimed Pod. Yes, of course I know. I've got the grating. Can you see the sky through the grating? Go on, interrupted Homily. Tell her about the gates. Well, said Pod ponderously, if you go outside this room, what do you see? A dark passage, said Arrietty. And what else? Other rooms. And if you go farther, more passages. And if you go walking on and on, in all the passages under the floor, however they twist and turn, what do you find? Gates, said Arrietty. Strong gates, said Pod. Gates you can't open. What are they there for? Against the mice, said Arrietty. Yes, agreed Pod uncertainly, as though he gave her half a mark, but mice never hurt no one. What else? Rats, suggested Arrietty. We don't have rats, said Pod. What about cats? Cats? Echoed Arrietty, surprised. Or to keep you in, suggested Pod. To keep me in? Repeated Arrietty, dismayed. Upstairs is a dangerous place, said Pod. And you, Arrietty, you're all we've got, see? It isn't like Hendreary. He still has 2 of his own and 3 of hers. Once, said Pod, Hendreary had 3. 3 children of his own. Your father's thinking of Eglantine, said Homily. Yes, said Pod, Eglantine. They never told her about upstairs, and they hadn't got no grating. They told her the sky was nailed up like with cracks in it. A foolish way to bring up a child, murmured Homily. She sniffed slightly and touched Arrietty's hair. But Eglantine was no fool, said Pod. She didn't believe them. So one day, he went on, she went upstairs to see for herself. How did she get out? Asked Arrietty, interested. Well, we didn't have so many gates then, just the one under the clock. Hendreary must have left it unlocked or something. Anyway, Eglantine went out. In a blue dress, said Homily, and a pair of button boots your father made her. Yellow kid with jet beads buttons. Lovely they were. Well, said Pod, any other time it might have been all right. She'd have got out, had a look around, had a bit of a fright maybe, and come back. None the worse and no one the wiser. But things have been happening, said Homily. Yes, said Pod. She didn't know, as they never told her, that her father had been seen, and that upstairs they'd got in the cat. And they waited a week, said Homily, and they waited a month, and they hoped for a year, but no one ever saw Eglantine no more. And that, said Pod, after a pause and eyeing Arrietty, is what happened to Eglantine. There was silence except for Pod's breathing and the faint bubble of the soup. It just broke up your Uncle Hendreary, said Homily at last. He never went upstairs again, in case, he said, he found the button boots. Their only future was to emigrate. Arrietty was silent a moment, then she raised her head. Why did you tell me? She asked. Now, tonight. Homily got up. She moved restlessly towards the stove. We don't never talk of it, she said. At least not much, but tonight we felt... She turned suddenly. Well, we'll just say it straight out. Your father's been seen, Arrietty. Oh, said Arrietty. Who by? Well, by something you've never heard of. But that's not the point. The point is, you'll think they'll get a cat. They may, said Homily. Arrietty set down the soup for a moment. She stared into the cup as it stood beside her, almost knee-high on the floor. There was a dreamy secret something about her lowered face. "Couldn't we emigrate?" she ventured at last, very softly. Homily gasped and clasped her hands and swung away towards the wall. "You don't know what you're talking about," she cried, addressing the frying pan which hung there. "Worms and weasels and coals and damp and—" "But supposing," said Arrietty, "that I went out, like Eglantine did, and the cat ate me. Then you and Papa would emigrate, wouldn't you?" she asked, and her voice faltered. "Wouldn't you?" Homily swung round again, this time towards Arrietty. Her face looked very angry. "I shall smack you, Arrietty Clock, if you don't behave yourself this minute." Arrietty's eyes filled with tears. "I was only thinking," she said, "that I'd like to be there, to emigrate too. Uneaten," she added softly, and the tears fell. "Now," said Pod, "this is enough. You get off to bed, Arrietty, uneaten and unbeaten both, and we'll talk about it in the morning." "It's not that I'm afraid," cried Arrietty angrily. "I like cats. I bet the cat didn't eat Eglantine. I bet she just ran away because she hated being cooped up, day after day, week after week, year after year, like I do," she added on a sob. "Cooped up?" repeated Homily, astounded. Arrietty put her face into her hands. "Gates," she gasped. "Gates, Gates, Gates." Pod and Homily stared at each other across Arrietty's bowed shoulders. "You didn't ought to have brought it up," he said unhappily. "Not so late at night." Arrietty raised her tear-streaked face. "Late or early, what's the difference?" she cried. "Oh, I know Papa's a wonderful borrower. I know we've managed to stay when all the others have gone. But what has it done for us in the end? I don't think it's so clever to live on alone, forever and ever, in a great big half-empty house, under the floor, with no one to talk to, no one to play with, nothing to see but dust and passages, no light but candlelight and firelight and what comes through the cracks. Eglantine had brothers, and Eglantine had half-brothers. Eglantine had a tame mouse. Eglantine had yellow boots with jet buttons, and Eglantine did get out, just once."